In the early 19th century, a mysterious disease terrorized parts of America. While settlers in the Wabash River Valley in Indiana and Illinois were busy expanding their new territories with their livestock, some previously healthy farmers suddenly fell ill. They experienced weakness, fatigue, vomiting, and their condition gradually worsened, with some eventually dying. This mysterious disease was initially known as the slows, the staggers, the trembles, and eventually, the milk sickness. It had a horrifying progression and tended to strike in the summer after a period of light rain. At that time, no one could explain what was happening, and the settlers became frightened. Some people blamed evil spirits and witches for the disease, while others associated it with toxic vapors rising from the earth. As a result, people abandoned the entire region, including the Wabash River Valley in Indiana and Illinois, believing they were under a curse. The state of Kentucky even offered a reward of $2,000, equivalent to about $70,000 in today's currency, to anyone who could provide an explanation for this disease. In Dubois County, the majority of deaths in the early 19th century were attributed to milk sickness. From 1809 to 1927, this strange disease claimed the lives of thousands of immigrants, farmers, and settlers in the Midwest. Almost every frontier family had dairy cows that grazed freely in fields and even in the nearby forests. However, in the 1820s, doctors and settlers began to develop troubling ideas. They believed that this dreadful disease originated from cows accidentally ingesting a type of toxin present in their environment. The toxin would then be transmitted to humans through the consumption of contaminated milk or other dairy products. The situation became even more frightening when the affected cows started dying mysteriously. Even some healthy adult cows were not immune to this threat. Some settlers even suspected that their livestock had poisoned themselves by drinking from contaminated wells and springs. Undeniably, this situation instilled fear across the frontier. The local community lived in confusion and anxiety, not knowing what was truly happening and how to protect themselves and their families from this mysterious threat. However, the fate of unraveling this puzzle lay in the hands of a young, intelligent midwife from Illinois known as Dr. Anna. She began her mission by gathering observations from the local residents, which turned out to be crucial clues in understanding this disease. Milk sickness had a consistent seasonal pattern. Anna Pierce was born in Philadelphia in the early 19th century. At a young age, she embarked on a journey to the Western Territories with her family. They settled in southern Illinois, specifically in an area known as Rock Creek. Located about 100 miles east of the Mississippi River, Rock Creek was indeed the American frontier at that time. As a teenager, Anna was deeply concerned about the poor health conditions of the pioneers around her. According to a 1966 report compiled by William Snively, a doctor from Alabama, and Lawana Furby from the American Dental Association, Anna decided to return to her place of birth to study nursing, midwifery, and dentistry. Although historians do not have precise information about where she received her education, Anna took steps to enhance her knowledge in those fields in Philadelphia. After several years, Anna returned to Rock Creek as the sole medical professional in the area. She dedicated years of her life to caring for the local population, assisting in childbirth, and combating disease outbreaks such as cholera. During this time, it is likely that Anna married a man named Isaac Hobbs. Throughout those years, Anna tirelessly traveled through the region, providing much-needed medical care to the community. The milk sickness epidemic ravaged the area, and Anna's family suffered a heavy blow. Her mother and sister-in-law fell victim to the disease and died. Anna's father also experienced a weakened condition and eventually returned to Philadelphia for medical treatment. Determined to uncover the mystery behind this disease, Anna began focusing on its seasonal nature. She became increasingly convinced that the source of the toxin was not water or metals but rather plants. Anna diligently urged her neighbors to exercise caution and avoid consuming milk and butter. In her journal, Anna wrote, "I tell everyone I meet to entirely avoid milk and butter, until after the deadly season of winter has passed." In the autumn of 1834, Anna Pierce followed the livestock through the forest to study their food. There, she encountered an elderly Shawnee woman hiding in the woods to avoid the forced migration policies that compelled their tribe to move to Kansas. Moved by the woman's story, Anna provided her with lunch and invited her to come home to rest. When the Shawnee woman learned of Anna's interest in milk sickness, she provided her with clues about the plants that caused the disease in cows and their milk. The woman guided her host to the top of the nearest hill and showed her a simple plant growing a few feet tall, with disc-shaped leaves, sturdy stems, and small clusters of white fluffy flowers. The woman explained that this fragile forest plant was what made the cows sick and poisoned their milk. The plant in question was Ageratina altissima, also known as white snakeroot, a small herb native to the eastern United States. Anna began experimenting by giving white snakeroot to animals, including calves, and observed them exhibiting tremors similar to milk sickness. She started spreading this information within her community. According to an article written by Snively and Furby in 1966 about Anna and her discovery, her campaign soon saved lives. Thanks to Anna's advice, local residents went into the forests and fields to search for and destroy the plant. Anna also created a white snakeroot garden in her backyard to educate the local population on how to identify it. She also sent letters to doctors, asking them to examine the plant, although it is unclear if there was any response. After 3 years, the plant had nearly disappeared from southeastern Illinois, and that should have been the end of the dreadful and widespread disease. However, for some reason, Anna's discovery did not spread widely. At that time, there were few doctors or medical journals available on the frontier. Moreover, authorities were not very inclined to believe a border midwife's findings. Even in 1862, almost 30 years after Anna's discovery, the disease still persisted along the Wabash River in Indiana and Illinois. Even in 1885, a doctor from North Carolina proposed a hypothesis that the disease was caused by arsenic poisoning through cow's milk. However, until 1965, when the journal Economic Botany compiled a literature review on milk sickness, including period reports, newspaper articles, and academic journals, the authors noted that milk sickness was rarely mentioned, even in 19th-century American medical textbooks. Such books often overlooked medical developments in the frontier regions. In 1900, milk sickness incidents began to significantly decline, mainly due to agricultural industrialization that introduced new standards in cattle feeding and safer milk processing. In 1927, almost half a century after Anna's death and nearly a century after her crucial encounter in the forest, researchers from the U.S. Department of Agriculture published a chemical analysis of the toxic substance found in white snakeroot roots. From the research, they discovered that the plant Ageratina altissima contained a toxin called tremetol. Tremetol is a glycoside classified in the group of pyrrolizidine alkaloid compounds. This compound can be found in various parts of the plant, including leaves, stems, flowers, and roots. Tremetol possesses strong neurotoxic properties, meaning it can affect the nervous system and cause serious disturbances in organisms that consume it. The compound works by inhibiting specific enzymes in the body, disrupting nerve impulse transmission and causing disruptions in the central nervous system. When animals like cows or goats consume the Ageratina altissima plant containing tremetol, this compound can be rapidly absorbed into their bloodstream. This can lead to various symptoms of poisoning such as tremors, muscle weakness, coordination disorders, increased heart rate, respiratory disturbances, and in severe cases, seizures and death. Since then, biologists have believed that tremetol, present at relatively high levels in white snakeroot roots, is the specific substance that causes milk sickness. Although Anna had conducted pioneering research on the toxic properties of this plant long before, her work was not recognized in the department's reports. In fact, it wasn't until the mid-1960s that historians and doctors began rediscovering Anna's story and advocating for recognition of her achievements. Given the significance of Anna's accomplishments, she deserves to be acknowledged alongside the most influential women figures in medical practice in the 19th century United States.